Okay, so starting with 41, find the arc length of AC. So you're just finding the length of this part of the circle. So to solve this, you would set up a ratio of part over whole equals part over whole. So degrees of 125 degrees over 360 degrees equals arc length of AC over the circumference of the entire circle. So in order to solve this, we actually have to solve for the circumference first. Circumference is pi times diameter. So we get pi times 6, it gives us the diameter, and then 6 times pi is 18.85. So I want you to round to the nearest hundredth place in all your problems, and then use the pi button so that way it's the most accurate answer. Pi is always going to be rounded just because it goes on for an infinity, but this will be as close as you can get. Then from here, we're going to plug the circumference into this ratio. Call arc length x, circumference 18.85. You would cross multiply, we get 360x equals 125 times this number is 2356.25. Then divide by 360 and you get x equals 6.55. And I would recommend as you're doing these calculations in the calculator, just use what's there. So for example, when you do 6 pi, you actually get this long number. I just rounded it to 18.85. But when I'm doing this cross multiplication, I'm actually multiplying this number by 125 to eliminate like all the rounding or minimize rounding. And then once I got this 2356, I wrote down 0.25, but honestly, when I'm doing the calculations, I'm dividing this whole thing by 360 to try to get the most accurate answer. Oh, and then I rounded wrong there too. Maybe I did different. I don't know, but that's what I'm doing. So if you got 0.54, good job. Also, when you're looking at the answer choices and multiple choice, that might happen too where you're like a little bit off. The bigger the numbers though, the more off it's going to be based on that rounding, so just keep that in mind. Okay, 42. Again, quickly going through this one. This time it wants the degree measure that's right here. So it'll be x degrees over 360 equals arc length of PQ, which is 5 feet, over the circumference. So again, we have to solve for the circumference, pi times diameter, pi times 8. It shows us the radius is 4, so diameter is 8. And then 8 times pi is 25.13, which we then cross multiply. And then divide both sides and you get this number. Okay, next one, mid-segment. Now it gets easy again. To find the length of the mid-segment here, this is the average of these two numbers. So if the middle number of 5 and 13 jumps out at you, great. If it doesn't, you can add 5 plus 13, divide by 2. 18 divided by 2 is 9. So that is the length of that segment. So MN is 9. 44. It wants you to find the center and the radius and then graph it. So here it doesn't have x plus anything or y plus anything, so the center is just at 0, 0. And then to find the radius, this term right here is r squared. So if you take the square root of 16, that's how you get 4. And then as far as graphing it, these graphs do not fit the numbers like ever. But the center of the circle would be at the origin. You can make a little mark out 4, up 4, over here, out 4, and then here is the circle as best we can. Then for 45, there is the center and the radius. The subtraction symbol is part of the equation, so it would be positive 3, positive 7. Radius would be square root of 81 is 9. Okay, next. Skip down to 49. We have similar triangles. It tells us they're similar here. Similar triangles are related through ratios. So what you would do is just identify two corresponding sides. It doesn't matter which ones you chose. I might choose this one and this one. And then maybe this one and this one correspond. So then I'll set up a ratio. If I'm going to do big to small, I have to keep that consistent. So if I do big over small, I have to make that equal to big over small. So 18 over 3x plus 3 equals 8 over 4. And then using cross multiplication, 18 times 4 is 72. Then 8 times 3x plus 3, distribute, and solve. 48 equals 24x, and then x equals 2. That's how we got it. Okay, so now we're going to start the lesson, so flip over to the next page.